Welcome to Transition Talks, Business Exit and Retirement Strategies with Josh Ackerman. Get ready to be immersed in real-life experiences and strategies of business owners who have transitioned their enterprises, whether by selling or handing over the reins to the next generation. Through candid conversations and expert insights, Josh aims to provide practical tips and proven techniques to tackle the complexities of succession planning. Let's embark on your next chapter together.
Hello, and welcome to the Transition Talks podcast with your host, Josh Ackerman. Josh, it's your first podcast. This is the inaugural podcast. You're new. Welcome. Glad you have on board.
Brand new. Happy to be here. This is great.
No, it's really great. And because it is your first podcast, I know what we do this time around is spend just a little bit of time getting to know you. Like, you seem like a nice guy to me. And as I said to you before, we're going to find out what in the world you're doing as a financial advisor and how did you get here? So why don't we start with that? What is it that motivated you or inspired you to become a financial advisor?
So as with most things, there's a story there. My father started in the financial services business in 1980 and as a life insurance agent.
Okay.
And was in the life insurance world until 2000 when he went out on his own. And Dad and I were having lunch in 2005. And we were talking about how happy he was at his job and how unhappy I was at my job. And at the time I was working for Lexmark, printer company in town, and the office politics and the constant reorganizations were getting me down. And so I was talking to Dad about the fact that he seemed to really enjoy talking to people, being with his friends. Dad is a very gregarious guy, has never met a stranger. And I was thinking, his day sounds like more fun than my day. So we talked about what he did, what I did. I came back to the office. It was a Friday afternoon. Two of my friends at work were getting married to each other that weekend. And I was thinking I could help my friends figure out how money works and get started with a shared view of how money works and how finances work. Or I could go back to my office and sell 30,000 low-end inkjet printers to Big Lots, which was my job at the time. So that day, I sold the printers to Big Lots and signed up for the first certified financial planner education course same day.
Wow.
So that's how I got here. Was I need to be doing something that has a more positive influence on the world than selling printers.
Wow, that is great. That is a great story. I mean, but so you sign up for the course. Did you resign from the company at the same time, or did you continue working for Lexmark while you did that?
I worked at Lexmark while I did that for a little bit, and then I was in the wrong seat at the wrong time during one of the reorganizations that they had. So I got handed a separation package and went all in on doing this. I think I took a week off and then I started showing up at the office.
Wow. That is a seat, unfortunately, way too many of us have been in. So you were really fortunate.
Yes. Well, and it was very simply, I realized that life in a corporation is often dependent on one person's opinion of you. Your immediate superior, if you just don't connect with that person, you're in trouble. And in the world I live in now, and I've said this for years, if I do my job right, I don't talk to people I don't like. If a prospective client and I get together and start talking, and at the end of the first conversation, either one of us feels like this isn't a good fit, that's fine. I'll help the prospective client find another advisor that they may get along with better. And from my perspective, if you and I don't connect, I need to find someone else to talk to. I need to replace you from a revenue business standpoint. But there's no real harm done if you and I aren't a good fit. In saying, in fact, the worst thing I could do is how convince you that you should sign up and work with me if you and I don't see the world the same way. That's not good for either one of us.
No, that's a refreshing attitude. I think unfortunately I think there are a lot of people that feel like, no, I got to make this relationship work. As opposed to accepting, it's like, okay, great. I like this person seems like a good person, but we're not going to fit. And they really should be, particularly with financial advisors, you should be with somebody that you feel a connection to.
You should be with someone you feel a connection to. The process, certainly the way that I see financial planning, the way we do financial planning, we need to have a level of trust that extends over a period of time. I started out selling life insurance. My family needed subsidized health insurance at the time, group health insurance at the time. Okay. So I started out, I was a career agent with Mass Mutual in the same office where I'd visited Dad as a kid. I was a career agent at Mass Mutual for 5 years. And in a product sales role, you and I can certainly get along well enough to transact selling you a life insurance policy. Yeah. And we don't ever have to talk to each other again. And that works. In the financial planning process, it is intended to be an ongoing relationship. The value of this planning, obviously, is that it's a verb. It's an ongoing process. Yeah. Things will change. And so it isn't the plan. I'm not selling the plan. I'm selling the process of planning.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, in order for us to have a relationship that goes on for years, we have to get along at kind of a fundamental level.
That's true. That's true.
Right. And so that's been a big piece of the job. When I told Dad, this is what I want to do, Dad said, and this is part of where the starting early with the certified financial planner came from, was Dad said, you're not going to sell product. You're not going to be an insurance agent. You're not going to be a stockbroker. The detour into life insurance was understandable, but he's like, that's not the long-term goal. The long-term goal is to be a planner and sell the advice.
So let me back it up for 1 second, because this is interesting. Yeah. But so when you got that package, you didn't walk out the door into your dad's office and into the financial planning space. You became a life insurance salesman first. Is that how that worked?
I became a life insurance salesman first, because Dad had a list of clients he'd sold life insurance to 20 years ago. Okay. And that gave me people to talk to and practice and sell some life insurance and make some money. And like I said, we got access to a group health insurance plan, which was a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
And then Dad took me to meet one of his best friends, who was a financial planner in Louisville, Kentucky. And Bob Cole and I sat down to dinner, and Bob was explaining what he does. And I said, Bob, I understand selling product. I understand life insurance, managing assets. I get it. I don't understand selling advice. Why would someone pay you for advice? And Bob said, Josh, your dad is one of the best life insurance guys I know. And your mother is a CPA.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you grew up with conversations at home that other people have never heard. You grew up with an understanding of money that other people don't have. That's what you're selling. And Dad and I still talk about our job some days is I speak financial, right? Doing the CFP program taught me to speak fairly fluent financial. And my job is to translate the financial language into English so that my clients can make informed choices.
Yeah, that is actually fascinating because so many of us, and I'll include myself in this, did not grow up in a home where financial language, for lack of a better way to put it, where the financial
Right.
language was not
Yeah.
spoken. I mean, you think that seems to have given you an edge that you would have over somebody like me.
I think so. And I think perhaps a comfort with kind of the basic ideas of how do you, and Mom and Dad would argue is maybe too strong a word, but would have spirited discussions about
Yeah.
money. They have kind of opposite beliefs about money. You can divide a lot of the world into people who believe that the money is going to run out at any moment, and they are very concerned about the future with money, and people who are convinced that money will appear when it's needed.
Yes, yes.
And both of those worldviews can be taken to the extreme and get you in trouble.
Yeah.
And Mom and Dad had, and it worked for them, they had opposing viewpoints. And so I grew up understanding that there's two different ways of seeing the world. And that there isn't perhaps an objective reality that we can all agree on, because Mom does not see the world of finances the way Dad does. And the numbers kind of don't have anything to do with it.
Boy, that's the truth. But what you just described is also sort of the two classic types that financial advisors have to deal with, often in couples.
Oh, certainly. No, there is definitely, I have a client, the wife is concerned about money, a
Yeah.
scarcity viewpoint, if we put her in one category. The husband is not. And the wife and I were talking about, you're worried about money. It's biologically the same part of your brain that kept you from getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger when we were cavemen, right? There's the fear sparks are the same fear. And the husband was kind of looking at me while I was talking about that, nodding his head, and he's like, about getting eaten by the tiger. I want to go pet the kitty on the head and make friends with him. He is not scared. And he's the salesman and makes very good money doing it. And once we kind of mapped out, we need to take care of her comfort level at the beginning, and then we can build on that foundation that's safe and conservative. We can build on that foundation to make him happy. Then we had a plan that they were happy with.
It's interesting. Well, it seems like a good place to ask you about your clients. I mean, who are, if you were asked, how would you describe your ideal client?
Our ideal client is the family-owned business preparing for a transition.
So there's where the name of the podcast comes from. I'm just going to jump in for 1 second. That's where the name of the podcast comes from.
Exactly. It's to talk about what are the things that you should be thinking about during the transition. And the transition could be selling to an outside buyer, or transitioning, as we did, transferring the business from generation 1 to generation 2. and all of the conversations that come along with that process.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't know, I would believe that you as a financial advisors are clearly aware of it, but we're on the cusp, speaking of transitions, of a massive transfer of wealth in this country from one generation to the next one or two generations below them. Is that something that you're constantly aware of?
That it definitely the numbers, and it's tough to get into the business of forecasting the future, but demographically, the baby boomers are turning 65
Oh,
this year. I think the youngest cohort is going to be 65. And so the media and the research has kind of forecasted a huge wave of business transitions as the baby boomer generation decides, okay, maybe I'm
right.
done. And that wave got delayed by the financial crisis in 08,
Mhm.
09, and then probably with COVID kind of
Yeah.
slowed things down. But friends I have in the business who are in the business of selling businesses, the business brokers, have said post COVID, they were as busy as they'd ever
Wow.
been because there was some pent up demand of people saying, I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm done. I've reached the point, right?
And this is difficult because it's what every financial planner, this is where financial planning can kind of sound like going to the dentist. I'm going to tell you, you should make a plan now for something that you believe is 5 years into the future. Right? That I am going to sell the business. Well, the time to decide I'm going to sell the business is when you have 5 or 6 years to get ready to sell the business. The danger is that you wake up one morning and say, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
Right? And so, and that's the dentist analogy is that, you've got to brush your teeth and floss and do all the things that you don't probably really want to do. But when it comes time to go to the dentist or sell the business, you'll be glad you did the groundwork.
Yeah, no, that's true, says the guy who took up flossing very late in life. Well, we're going to get into your practice and more about what you do in the second episode of your podcast. But right now, I want to stay focused on you, and that sort of leads me into wondering if you're active in the community, and if you are, what kind of things do you do in the community?
The big thing I've been doing the last 5 years is I helped kind of on the outside, helped the University of Kentucky launch a certified financial planner education certificate program.
Oh, nice.
So in order to take the CFP exam, you need to have an approved education background, take the test, and then get relevant experience, the 3 E's. And I helped the business school launch the CFP program, which is entirely online. It launched pre-COVID, but obviously did well when everything was online anyway. So I teach the investment class, and then I teach the final capstone course for that program at the University of Kentucky.
That is great. Does that program have like an internship program attached to it? You mentioned experience. That's the only reason I'm
we are working on that. We're working on that, and we're working on the current director of the program has been very interested in bringing that program in front of more people, more students as a potential career opportunity. I am convinced that financial planning is the most liberal arts career ever created. There are so many different working pieces in the financial planning process. And there's the technical analysis side, the investment management, but there's also taxes and estate planning and retirement. So there's all kinds of toys to play with. And at its core, it's a people business, it's relationships. The software, the calculator, will always solve the math equation faster than I can. But my job is asking the right questions and helping the clients articulate their questions, and then we'll go find an answer.
Well, that's great.
And so that's the part.
No, that's great, and that intrigues me. And I laugh when you said it's the ultimate liberal arts degree, because I'm thinking financial literacy is feels so scant these days.
Yes.
That,
Yep.
I completely get what you're saying.
It's a difficult thing, and this goes back to the idea that I speak financial. It's another language.
It is, but it's not. It is, but it's not. My background is I spent several decades in financial and business journalism. So my skill set was taking financial speak and translating it into people speak. And the thing is that they're not really that different. It's just that so many people aren't used to the language.
So many people aren't used to it, and there is an old saying, I certainly did not come up with this, that every profession is a conspiracy against the laity, against those outside the profession.
Amen, amen, amen. Yes, absolutely.
And the financial services industry has certainly profited by making things difficult for the outsider to understand.
Yes. Yes.
And so I feel like that's where there is a certain amount of, I have to use my powers for good, right? If I understand this stuff and I can explain it, I need to be doing that, because otherwise my clients would be at the mercy of someone who may use their understanding of the process against my client, right, for their benefit and to my client's detriment. And that's not the game. That's not what we're supposed to do.
No, it's not. But that's what Wall Street was built on for a very, very long time.
Certainly. And there is a lot of truth to the idea that is sort of the definition of a profession, is I know something you don't know, and you will pay me for that knowledge.
Well, of course. Well, you're my financial advisor, I am paying you for your guidance. I'm paying you for your expertise, but I'm not paying you to be my high priest.
Right.
I'm also paying you to help me understand all of this stuff, right?
Yes, definitely. No, I agree with that 100%. My job is to help you think things through. One of my mentors in the business says that she is her client's thinking partner. So the client will call and say, let's get together. I have a question. We need to think this through together. And so it isn't come in and Josh tells you what to do.
Yeah.
It's come in with a problem and let's talk it through. And it's entirely possible. In fact, it's probable you know the answer. You just want to make sure you're not missing something, that there isn't a repercussion that's going to turn around and bite you down the road.
Yep.
Or a way to do this thing you want to do and do it the most expedient and cheapest way possible. That's the job.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the fun part.
Oh, and that's great. That is great. And it seems like a really good point at which to wrap up your very first episode, because the next time we get together, I do want to explore your business and investment philosophy. I do want to learn more about your practice and continue this conversation. This is terrific. Let's wrap it up this way. For people who are listening to the podcast and maybe they haven't listened before, you've had, they don't know who you are, how do they get a hold of you? What's a good way for them to contact you?
Our business is Context Financial, Context Financial. Context, like the context of the question.
Great.
Dad named it that in 2000. And the best way would be to go to the website. It's got all the contact info, phone numbers, and emails. And let me know how I can help.
That's great. And for those of you who are listening, the information will also be in the show notes. So you can click there as well. That's great, Josh. I'm looking forward to this relationship. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your company and your thoughts on a whole lot of different stuff. For now, thank you for taking the time to listen. If this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, well, congratulations. The thing you could do that would be the simplest right now is to hit follow. Hit the follow button. Become a subscriber. That way, when Josh puts out his next edition of his podcast, you'll be notified immediately and you can listen. Until next time, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'm Bill Tucker. On behalf of Josh and everybody at Context Financial, I want to thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today and remind you that you can go out today and make today a great day or not. You do have a choice. Thanks for listening. Until next time.